Today I want to show you how to turn these really simple basic ingredients into delicious pizza for your family for a fraction of the price it would cost to buy supermarket owned pizzas. You can end up spending £5–10 on a couple of pizzas from the supermarket that don't even taste that great. I've put my bread mix into my Kenwood mixer, which has got a dough hook on. I'm now adding a tablespoon, which is 15 mils of oil, into the mixture, which we'll need to go in first. I've used the oil which is left over from my sun-dried tomatoes because it's infused with lovely flavours, but you can just use any oil that you have, vegetable oil, olive oil, but it's quite a good tip to save the oil from your sun-dried tomatoes because it tastes delicious. You could do this by hand, obviously. If you didn't have a mixer, just give it a good stir until it's combined. And now I'm going to add the water. It says on the packet, we just follow the packet instructions, but it says add 310 mils of lukewarm water, which helps activate the yeast in the mixture. But one tip I would say to be very careful of is don't add all the water at once. Just add it slowly until your dough forms, because if you put too much in, it can go too far and it will be too wet. But if that does happen, just add a bit of flour to the mix until it is drier. You can see now that's come together in a nice ball. So I'm going to let that knead for 5 minutes. Of course you can do that by hand also, but you knead it for a good 5 minutes. You can really smell the delicious tomato flavoured oil coming out of that, which is lovely. So while that is cooking for 5 minutes, I'm going to crack on and make the sauce to go on top of the pizza base. The ingredients that I'll need for the sauce are very, very simple. Again, it's a tin of chopped tomatoes, and then you've got some herbs, some salt and sugar to balance it out, and some olive oil as well. So I'll just literally tip in the tomatoes, pinch of sugar, pinch of salt, which will balance out the kind of acidic flavours in the sauce. I'm using oregano, dried oregano. You could use sage or dried basil, mixed herbs, anything you like, but I really find oregano goes very nicely with the pizza. And then just a glug, which I've left over here, of my tomato flavoured olive oil. But again, just any olive oil is fine, just about a tablespoon in there. And we'll just turn the heat on. Give it a mix and leave that to bubble for about 10–15 minutes until it becomes really thickened and concentrated, ready to be spread on the pizza as the pizza sauce. That is it. That is all you have to do. It's so easy. In the meantime, I've floured a couple of baking trays, which are what my pizzas are going to cook on, just with plain flour. And then over here, the mixer is still going. I'm just going to turn it off. Let's have a look in there. There's the dough, and what a nice ball. I'm going to let that sit for 5 minutes and then put it on for another 5, by which time the sauce should have reduced down. The tomato sauce has been on for about just over 10 minutes, I'd say, and you can see now that the liquid's really reduced down and it's turned into a nice thick sauce, which will be much more intensely flavoured. Perfect for spreading on pizza. So I'm going to turn that off. You can see it's splattered all up the sides, so it'll be a bit tricky to wash up, but it's worth it for the flavour and the cheapness. And the dough is just going again for its second 5 minutes bit of kneading. Of course you can knead it by hand if you don't have a mixer. So we'll just wait for that to finish and then we'll be rolling it out. My dough is ready. It feels lovely and silky and springy to touch. I'm just going to get it off the hook. It's still quite challenging one-handed, but never mind. Okay, so here's my lovely dough. You can see all the strands inside. It's lovely. It's soft to touch, not too sticky, just right. So what I'm going to do is cut it in half and divide it between the two tins. So I've now rolled out 1/2 of my dough onto a baking sheet. I've rolled it directly on the baking sheet, just kept moving it around and then I put more flour underneath it so that it doesn't stick when it goes in the oven. And what I'm going to do now with a fork is just prick the base so it doesn't all puff up like a massive giant pita bread in the oven, which it would do otherwise. And sometimes it still does that. It might do that when I show you it later, but this is to stop it from doing it too extensively. You can always bat it down a bit when it comes out of the oven. And what I'm going to do is actually cook this without anything on it in a really hot, well, 180 oven, 180 fan, 200 not fan. I'm going to cook it for 5 minutes just to sort of set the base, and then it won't go all soggy and rubbish when you cook it with the pizza toppings on top. So it just kind of gives it the chance to sort of set and become crispy. So I'm going to put it in the oven now for 5 minutes, and that's at 180. And we'll come back and see what that looks like in a sec while I roll out the other one. So it's out of the oven, and you can feel this kind of sandy appearance. It's a lot firmer now than it was, and I've taken a pie slice and I've very carefully underneath loosened it so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the tin, so that when you finally come to cook it with the toppings on, it doesn't go all soggy. So that feels great. Now I'm ready for the toppings. So here we've got the sauce that we made earlier, which has cooled off a little, and I'm going for a bit of a Hawaiian theme with ham and pineapple with extra sweet corn, and then there'll be mozzarella on the top. So I'm just going to use a spatula and spread it around, give it a good smear. Last little bit. Now this is going to be quite messy, isn't it? Never mind. Right, so a bit of ham. Is a Hawaiian. So straight ham and pineapple. And you don't need masses of cheese. Spread it all around. It's not perfectly symmetrical shape. I think it makes it look more rustic. There we are. Lovely, ready to go in the oven for probably about 10 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. You don't want it to get too burnt around the edges. So again, that's in the hot oven, 180 fan, for about 10 minutes. So take the pizza's now out of the oven after 10 minutes, and we'll just slide it off the baking tray. And you can see it's got lovely crispy edges. It's not soggy on the bottom at all. It all moves independently. It's all crispy, delicious, ready to get stuck into. Just going to take my pizza cutter, give it a cut, and there you have it. Super easy weeknight pizza for a fraction of the cost. And honestly, it tastes really, really good. Look at that.